developers. This is one of the opportunities that we have. We try to do a few of these every semester to actually reach out and talk with those of you that build applications every single day and hopefully help you build better applications and help us make the world more open and connected, because that's really our goal with both Facebook and Facebook Platform. What we're going to be talking about this morning is some of the new tools that we've been developing over the last several months as we've been thinking about how we can help you as application developers drive more distribution and drive more engagement. And so what we're going to talk about this morning is the next evolution of the Facebook mobile platform. So one of the things that I want to do before we step into that is provide a little context into how Facebook is thinking, both from a user perspective as well as from a platform perspective, about this move into this post-PC world. Many of you are dealing with the plethora of devices that we see actually coming out every single day. In the past, certainly when Facebook was first coming up, we had a common form factor, the PC, whether or not that was a Windows-based PC or a Mac-based PC, and we had the web as the common runtime that you could have as an execution environment for your applications across both of those operating systems with that one single form factor. But what we've been seeing is an enormous number of new devices coming online, whether or not they're consoles, whether or not they're TVs with experiences built into those, whether or not they're tablets or a variety of different mobile phones. And for those of you that build applications, like we do with Facebook, your aspiration is to build your experience and have it span across a variety of these different devices. It turns out that's very, very difficult in practice. For those of you that write code for a living, it turns out that you would love to have a single runtime, the holy grail, as it were, for you to build your application experience, write that once, and then run it across a variety of different form factors and screen sizes, etc. And so there was a technology that for a very long time, and even today, that we believed held promise to enable us to do that, where you could have one code base and have that run across all these different devices. And that technology, I won't get into the various details of it. Those of us that write code for a living know it's not as simple as calling it HTML5. There's a number of different things, but the moniker is HTML5. And this is a very important technology. It really, really represents the next step of the web as the web attempts to span all those different devices. And it turns out it's very important to Facebook. It's always been important to us. And this is where we based much of our technology, our implementation technology, for how we wanted to go across all those different screens. But as it turns out, it's a phenomenal technology to get an enormous amount of reach. But what it doesn't give you is access to the underlying hardware and the underlying processor speeds, et cetera, that allow you to build the best experience for each and every one of those devices. And so we faced a particular challenge when we were thinking about how we should implement Facebook. And we decided to go with HTML5, but then we quickly realized that this wasn't quite enough. We needed to add the native technologies and write directly to Objective-C and write directly to Java and take advantage of the underlying hardware that was available with all those different devices. And so our current approach from an implementation technology is not to abandon HTML5, but rather to augment it with native experiences written in the best operating systems, best runtimes for those particular devices, and create the richest possible experience that we can for the majority of users that we can throughout the folks that are actually utilizing those devices. So one way you can really think about this, and we would like to talk to developers and talk about how we think about the space, is that HTML5 is a phenomenal technology for you to get large amounts of breadth. In fact, this is a little known fact that there are over 7,000 devices that access Facebook on any given day. And so it would be impossible for us to build native experiences. Well, certainly we could do that, but we would probably have to hire all the engineers in the world in order to build those out. And so we utilize HTML5 as the bedrock base to get a tremendous amount of breadth, and then we utilize the native runtimes in order to create the best experience. And so this is a really interesting context for you to think about as you are trying to span all these different devices. Now, a little known fact is that at the same time that we were undergoing this journey from HTML5 wholly to a more nuanced strategy of where we had native and then HTML5 with our user products, an unknown story was we were doing the exact same thing with our platform. When we first announced our mobile platform, it was very HTML5, very web-centric. And over the past year, we've been spending an enormous amount of time retooling our infrastructure in order to enable those of you that have adopted a similar strategy as us to get the best benefit of Facebook. And so this really represents moving forward for us our user strategy as well as our platform strategy. And thus far, this has been working out very, very well for us. We continue to see an enormous amount of growth in terms of users, both on web as well as on mobile. And for us, this really represents the best. It's really a question rather not of or, but rather of and when we're thinking about our implementation technology. And so for those of you that are thinking about the right way to approach this world, we really think that this is a 1, novel, 2, pragmatic, and 3, very effective way for you to build out your application experiences across all of these different devices. Now, when you really think about once you've selected your implementation technology and you've decided which devices you're going to be supporting, you need to think pretty deeply about what does it mean to get discovered in this new world. In the old world, it was fairly straightforward. In the old world, you could actually go to a search engine and boom, you got the results that you wanted, and you could go to the right application experiences that were available to you. But if you go and you look into this new world of where you have applications like, say, Instagram. Instagram's a phenomenal application. In fact, it's so good we bought it. It turns out that Instagram is one awesome photo app, but it is a photo app in a literal sea of other photo applications. And if you think about your app is a pale blue dot, to paraphrase Carl Sagan, a pale blue dot in the app cosmos. You are here. This is where you are. And so how do you get discovered? How do you get found in this cosmos, this app cosmos that has 700,000, more than 700,000 applications in each of the stores? In fact, interestingly, we were trying to determine the exact number of applications that were in the store yesterday, and we couldn't decide if it was 1,800,000, et cetera. But once you reach 700,000, it doesn't matter if you add on another 100,000. You are still a pale blue dot in this app cosmos. So how can Facebook help with that? And this is something we spend an enormous amount of time thinking about, and this is the reason that our platform exists. Our platform exists in order to have awesome third-party applications like yourselves create content, create experiences that Facebook could never even dream of creating, and then taking those experiences and pumping that into the 1 billion users we have experiencing Facebook in any given month. And the real benefit to you is you get access to those billion users. You get to get discovered. You can stand out in that app cosmos and actually be something unique that people want to use. You can get discovered, and not only can you get discovered, and this is really important, there are many people who will give you solutions where you can get discovered, you can get found. But the most important thing is that people come back to your application. It's one thing to chart, it's one thing to be at the top, but it's yet another thing to build a sustainable business where users are coming back again and again and again to your applications. So let's talk about how Facebook can actually help you do that. So the first thing that we offer is this awesome thing called Timeline. What Timeline really represents, and we launched this in 2011, it is the story of your life. And we're going to be talking about the next version of Timeline we just recently launched and talk about how that adds a tremendous amount of value to your applications. If you haven't seen it yet, this is what the new experience looks like. This is highlighting one of our most important partners. In fact, it's my favorite app that runs on platform, which is Pinterest. And you can see the beautiful experience that you can get. You can effectively create a home for your application directly inside of the user's profile. And one of the core things we want to do with this is take applications from being something people use to being something that's part of who they are. And we believe that's an essential element in order to gain great re-engagement. Take an app from being something people use to being something that is part of who people are. And so we're going to be spending time today talking about the benefits of Timeline and how you can best integrate into that system. The second thing that we offer, of course, is Newsfeed. Many of you I know I spend many hours in Newsfeed. It's how I find almost everything in my life. It's this phenomenal push-based, interest-based mechanism to discover new things that are going on, of course, including applications. Again, this is an example of Pinterest. You can see Pinterest at the top line there. Any application can utilize the Open Graph and integrate into Timeline and create a really awesome experience. The most recent thing we launched just very recently was Facebook Home. And it turns out Facebook Home is yet again another phenomenal device, another phenomenal experience rather, that you can use in order to show your app content. So if you integrate with the Open Graph, and you have content that is visually beautiful, it will show up on Facebook Home. And this is something we're starting to see a lot of developers take interest in, and we're seeing a lot of developers start to rotate their applications towards. Because one, this is a great experience. Two, it helps with discovery. And three, it helps with engagement for your applications. Now, most recently, we've been spending a lot of time thinking about what does it mean for developers to actually start to use Facebook as a sponsorable or a promoted channel. And so one of the things that we've recently come out with is a product that we call our mobile app installs. And what this represents is the opportunity for you as developers to sponsor your applications directly inside of Newsfeed. You don't need to integrate with Facebook Login. You don't need to integrate with the Open Graph. You can simply do a few things in order to sponsor your applications directly inside of Newsfeed. And thus far, this has proven to be very effective and very successful for the developers who have been using it. The really cool thing about this is you never leave Facebook in order to install your applications. So when you click on this, this actual story, it will bring up the Apple Store directly in situ where you can install the application and then you have an opportunity to use it. And thus far, as I said, this has been really, really successful. And we're going to be talking today about how you can best utilize this channel to help your applications. In addition to Newsfeed, we have launched Graph Search. What Graph Search represents is the third pillar of Facebook. It represents an opportunity for you as users to create awesome ad hoc queries and discover the richness of the social graph. And one of the core things of the social graph is actually the applications that a given user uses. And so this is another channel by which your application can be discovered. It is another channel by which your application can gain additional engagement. And we're continuing to think about how we can add additional information from third-party applications directly into Graph Search. But today, this is a great tool, and we see lots of people doing these kinds of queries, finding out what the really cool apps are that they may want to go install. Because if you really think about it, when you look at your phone, all the apps that are there, you probably asked your friends, hey, which app do you use for to-do? Which apps do you use to write with? Which apps do you use for calendar? What Facebook really represents with many of these channels is word-of-mouth marketing at scale. And Graph Search allows a given user to really think deeply about the kind of applications they would like and enter in the right query and find the app that they would like. In addition to those three channels, the core pillars of Facebook, Facebook platform also offers a really cool piece of functionality called requests. And what requests offer is the ability for you as third-party developers to allow a user to invite all their friends to come to your application. And what this results in is your phone, or the user's phone, will actually buzz. You'll get a push notification that goes through the Facebook channel. When they swipe that notification, it will come to the Facebook app, in which they can click on the notification, and then if they do not have the app installed, it will install the app, and then the user can go into that experience. So again, this is showing how all the different Facebook channels, one, could be a discovery mechanism, word-of-mouth marketing for friends at scale, and how it can drive installs and re-engagement for you as developers. 2 semesters ago, we launched another tool for developers. We call this App Center. And what App Center represents is not a competitor to the App Store in any way, shape, or form. Everything that we build at Facebook embraces the existing ecosystem of applications and mobile platforms. And what we want to do is actually bring the social layer on top of that. We want to bring friends and family and the ability for them to recommend really awesome experiences and applications to this. And so we built App Center to be a core place of where users can go to find out what their friends are using. It's sort of like a set of standing queries on top of Graph Search. And we try to basically take the top queries, make those available for you as users and developers, and help people really discover awesome applications. What happens is this will drive more installs to the Apple App Store, more installs to Google Play, or on the web. It will take you into our Canvas product on Facebook.com. And so again, this is another discovery channel and another re-engagement channel that you can take advantage of. So let's talk about how this works in practice. One of my favorite things to actually do is, it turns out at Facebook I'm not that busy, so I have an opportunity to go and play Candy Crush. How many of you play Candy Crush? Admit it. Come on. Oh, come on. Everyone I know plays Candy Crush. So if you haven't played Candy Crush, you're missing it. It's the hottest thing in the world. And what you can do is, Candy Crush is a great example of an application that has understood how you get scale and how you get experiences that span this post-PC world. They have a great web experience that you can launch directly from inside of Facebook. So I go over and I say I want to play this game. I'm on the web. The game starts to load. I'm having a good time inside of the game. It's mixing my ingredients, adding sugar, and then I'm actually in to play the game. So this is a web-based experience. Now, when I play the game, I'll play that for some amount of time, but I'm given an opportunity at some stage to start to invite some of my friends to help me with gameplay. And so what this does is take advantage of the underlying request functionality that we offer. So now when I do this and a request gets sent, my good friend Mallory, Jillian, what she will do is she has her phone, and she looks down, and she sees her phone, it gets buzzed. She looks at it, she swipes it, and there is a notification on her phone. I was playing on web. I invited her. She's on her mobile phone, swiped it. She sees the notification. She clicks on that notification. It takes her to the App Store. We detect whether or not the app is installed. If it's not, we take you to the App Store, the app gets installed, and then you go in and you start to play the game. So this is me playing on web, inviting someone on mobile. The app is not installed. We help drive an installation to you. We play that game. She decides that she is going to log in with Facebook. She begins to play the game, etc. And what happens is a story will get generated. A story will get generated to all her friends, including Fran, who's another good friend of ours. And this would be a story that Fran would see on his Android device. Turns out Fran doesn't have the app installed either. So when he clicks it, it takes him directly to Google Play, where he can install the application as well. So you acquired one user via one Facebook channel called the App Center, and in turn, you got 2 installations of both Android and iOS as a result of integrating with the Facebook social channels. And this is what Facebook platform is all about. It is a world where there is a multitude of devices. It is a world that embraces web. It is a world that embraces iOS. It is a world that embraces Android. People want to have experiences with other people. They don't want to have experiences with other devices. In fact, do any of you have any idea what all devices your friends carry? You don't. But Facebook can provide the glue that can take your application experience, stitch those things together, and provide a common pathway for folks to discover and re-engage with your applications. And so Candy Crush is seeing an enormous amount of success with this. They have over 50 million MAU, 50 million monthly active users, and users that both play on iOS or Android and web are roughly 2x more engaged. Because what they can do is when they're on their desktop, they can play Candy Crush there, and then when they're getting ready to get on the subway, they can play Candy Crush there on their mobile device. Now, this is not exclusive to games. In fact, we're seeing more and more and more partners implementing this pattern of where you implement web, implement iOS, implement Android, take advantage of the Facebook social channels to stitch these things together. My favorite apps are on this list. I use Nike Plus. I use Spotify, I use Pinterest, and all of these folks are taking advantage of the common implementation patterns that I talked about at the very beginning, as well as Facebook platform, in order to be able to be found and to gain new engagement. So how are we doing? So I talked about the patterns, et cetera. How are we doing? What are the real stats that show that this is something that's working? Candy Crush, 50 million MAU. What else is going on in the ecosystem? So as I talked about, this is something that embraces web as well as mobile. And one of the core things that you'll see is we have roughly 250 million people in any given month taking advantage of our Canvas product, typically playing games. And we're just seeing that thing continue. It's been 6 years. We launched that, I believe, in May of 2007. And roughly 6 years on, things have been never better, never better. And so we're really happy with what we're seeing in that particular space. But more importantly, what we're seeing is people bridging from that directly into the Apple App Store, into Google Play. And so last month alone, we drove over 263 million clicks from the Facebook application directly to the store. Every one of those clicks could have been a click for your app. Every one of those clicks could have been a click to install your application in the Apple App Store or in Google Play. And then if you just go and look at the top 100, go look at the top 100 iOS apps, top 100 Google applications, 81% of those iOS apps are integrated with Facebook. 70% of those Android applications are integrated with Facebook. What's really interesting is we spent a lot of time trying to really understand how effective this is. And we talked to ComScore, and they've done a number of studies. And what we ended up with, they came back and you know what they told us? They said Facebook is the top driver of awareness of new mobile applications. That's from ComScore. Facebook is the top driver of awareness of new mobile applications. And so this really is an effective channel. It's an effective channel for Candy Crush, and it's an effective channel for all those partners that we saw. It's an effective channel if you look at the top charts across iOS and Android, and it's an effective channel if you look at the studies that Comcast has done. ComScore. So what do we have today? So today we have released the iOS SDKs. These have been available. As I said, we've been taking a turn where we shifted from web to mobile. And so we've created a number of different tools that are available today that allow you to take advantage of the Facebook social graph, all those different channels that I talked about just a few moments ago. In addition, we provide tools that allow you to select people, to select places, etc. We want to make it very, very simple for you to take advantage of these different social channels. So we've done this for iOS, and we've also done this for Android. And thus far, we've been very, very happy with the adoption that we've been seeing of this, and we've been very happy, as you saw, with all the different results. In addition, one of the pieces of feedback that we often get is that, you do provide growth, you do provide engagement, but, you're really not as professional as you need to be in terms of a developer platform. And so we've been spending the last couple of years actually taking time to build out all the right infrastructure that we need in terms of documentation, in terms of tools, in terms of the way that you interact with our developer relations team, with you interact with all of our engineering teams, in order to really create an environment of not only is there a tremendous amount of value there, but we remove all the friction that may exist in order for you to take advantage of it. And that's what we think about every single day. One, how can we add value to your lives? And two, how can we make it as simple as possible for you to take advantage of that? So that's the context in which we are operating today. So what comes next? What new things are we ready to announce that will help you get discovered and help you grow engagement with the Facebook platform? So we're going to talk about three things today. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Open Graph coming to mobile, and I'll talk about what that means in a few moments. We launched the Open Graph back in 2011, and it was an environment that was really based on this notion of public web content. And we're going to talk about how the move to mobile has really evolved that story and how we've changed our products to embrace mobile. Open Graph goes mobile. In addition, we are creating better user experiences and better developer experiences around the way that users log in with Facebook. This is something, as you move to mobile, that is enormously important, and we spent a lot of time thinking through that. And lastly, we are making all this available as part of a new SDK that we're making available to all of you today that is for iOS, and we'll very quickly have one of those available for Android. So let's talk about the Open Graph going mobile. So as I said, one of the core things for those of you that have implemented the Open Graph, you know that you basically have to spool up a web server. You have to annotate that with a number of pieces of metadata, et cetera. And it actually makes it really hard if you're a mobile-only developer to build out the Open Graph. In fact, there are a lot of infrastructure startups that have been created simply for the effect of allowing you as mobile developers to integrate with systems like the Open Graph. And so one of the jokes that we have is basically when we launched the Open Graph, you had to have a data center, particularly if you ended up with a big, successful application. You were spooling up web servers, you had to do load balancers, you had to do any number of things. So today what we've done is we are releasing an object API that takes all of this burden away from you. You no longer need to spool up any of this infrastructure. You no longer need to spool up web servers, annotate web pages, et cetera. Rather, Facebook will become the store for the Open Graph objects that you have for your application. And you can simply use 6 lines of code in order to create Open Graph objects, store those in our infrastructure, and then utilize those both in Facebook as well inside of your application. And we think this is really going to change the way that people think about the Open Graph, as well as the number of apps that are integrating with the Open Graph. I've been waiting to build this feature and release it probably since the inception of the Open Graph. And we think this is a really important innovation that's going to enable many of you to add the Open Graph directly to your applications to get the kind of discovery and the kind of engagement that we'd like to see you having. Data center to 6 lines of code. You get to take advantage of the data centers that we have at Facebook. Eddie O'Neill will be up in a few moments, and he'll actually drive into the details of that, and we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about how you take advantage of this. In addition, we have created a native share dialog that makes it where your application no longer has to write a tremendous amount of code in order to publish Open Graph actions. Rather, what you can do is take the 6 lines of code that you saw a few moments ago to create an Open Graph object. Then you can take 1 line of code to integrate this native share dialog directly into your app. You no longer have to implement Facebook login if you don't want to. You can move directly to this, and you can start to publish Open Graph actions, whether or not they're common actions like listen, watch, read, etc., or custom actions that are specific to your applications, say, for instance, Pin for Pinterest. We think this is the rough analogy of the like button for mobile. It literally is 1 line of code for your native application to integrate directly with Facebook. So with 7 lines of code, you can integrate and take advantage of many of the social channels that I just talked about a few moments ago. In addition, we are releasing a new object browser where you can browse all the different Open Graph objects that you happen to be storing with us. You can create new instances, you can look at all the types, etc. And what this really represents is us getting very serious about the Open Graph as the core type system of the way that all of these different devices and experiences are being brought together. I mean, what we really aspire to is to build out this enormous graph that represents users, represents the things they care about, and allow you as application developers to tie into that and create really awesome experiences on top of it. And we believe the Object API, the native share dialog, and this object browser are going to make it simpler than ever for you to integrate with that. In addition, as we've been thinking about mobile, it's not only about the ability to share content, the ability for your applications to integrate with those things, but often what users really want to see happen is your application to pull data from Facebook in order to create a really awesome personalized experience. And in order to do that, what you need to do is you need to get them to authenticate or log in with Facebook so you get permission to pull that information down. Now, as we've talked to many users, one of the most interesting things that they tell us is, we like Facebook login. We like the ability to be able to click onto that button and don't have to enter in a new password, etc., and get a really nice personal experience. But the thing that I'm the most worried about when I click on that is what the application is going to do. Are they going to post something to my wall without me knowing about it? And so one of the core things that we did with this particular product is we made a decision that we were going to separate permissions from when you can ask a user for their data in order to personalize the experience, which is what this screen is, from you asking for permission to post on their behalf. And so what we've done is we split up this experience so users feel safe and secure in picking that option to personalize the experience. You're going to get a phenomenal conversion rate in terms of registration, and then users feel in control of what you are going to post on their behalf. And we're beginning to roll this out today broadly on both web as well as on mobile. And we're really happy with this experience. And thus far, all the data we've seen is this really helps overall conversions. This particular system is up 5%. Even with the split that we have here, we're seeing login conversions roughly up 5%. And so we're going to start to see as this rolls out, and we're thinking of new innovations. But we think this particular thing is going to address one of the core issues that users have on mobile. One, they want to log in with Facebook. They want to click that button to get the easy registration. But 2, they want to feel in control of what is going to get posted back to their walls. And we think this starts to begin that process and will make users feel much safer. And so what we're doing now is we're integrating all of those tools that I just talked about, and we're going to be releasing them today. We're releasing our iOS SDK 3.5. It'll be available today. And we'll be releasing a version of that for Android very, very quickly. Now, it also turns out that iOS, Android, and the web, those are phenomenal platforms, but there are many other platforms as well. And our aspiration is for all applications to integrate with the Facebook social graph, for all applications to be experiences that span all these different devices, and all applications are experiences that integrate and take advantage of the personalization and the discovery and the engagement that you can get from Facebook platform. And so what we've done is we have worked with an enormous number of partners inside of the developer ecosystem, and we've created a new program that we call the Facebook Technology Partner Program. Many of these partners are here today. They're some of the leading names in the developer ecosystem, including Parse, including Microsoft, including Adobe, including Sencha, and many others. And we've partnered with them, and we're making available on our developer site the SDKs, the tools, the APIs that these partners have built out in order to integrate with Facebook, and for you as developers that depend on these folks for infrastructure to really simply get the same kind of experience that you would get if you used our iOS SDK or our Android SDK or our web SDKs. Again, this is all about our aspiration for helping you as developers, regardless of the technology choices that you're making, create these experiences that span devices and allow you to get discovered and to drive new engagement. And so the key things to take away from this particular part of the presentation is, one, Facebook platform has been proven to help application developers get discovered and to increase engagement. We are powering the top apps and the top games across the web and across the major mobile operating systems. And today, we are announcing new products to take that to the next level, the next evolution. We are bringing the Open Graph to mobile, making it easy for you as application developers to take the Open Graph and integrate it directly into your products. We are improving the login experience. It is faster, it converts better, and it gives users more control. And we're releasing tools to allow you as application developers, regardless of the technology stack that you take advantage of, to integrate with Facebook directly. And so with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to invite up on stage Rose. Rose actually is the product manager for the Open Graph, and she's going to talk with you about all the new innovations we've been